Welcome back, y'all. So it's been a while since I posted a video because my last two videos, Roblox, y'all ain't never seen my face. But here I am. We finna probably lean into more reaction videos until I could get myself a full set PC. As of right now, we on a laptop. So I'm doing good on here right now. But today we gonna be reacting to weirdest places that people have been found and got stuck in somehow. I don't know. I ain't gonna lie. But let's go ahead and get to the video.
Weeping suspects. Keys have a tricky way of vanishing without explanation, but our next vanishing act also concerns the owner of a set of keys. Firefighters in Tucson, Arizona responded to quite the bizarre call-out in October 2016 after reports of some mysterious wails coming from a home in a suburban neighborhood. After investigating, members of the fire department were stunned to find the cries were coming from inside the home's chimney. It took 3 firefighters to pull out the source of the wails. The homeowner himself, covered head to toe in a thick layer of soot that completely obscured his hair, face, and clothes. Turns out this skinny Santa figured he could shimmy down his home's chimney to gain entry after realizing he'd forgotten his keys, to disastrous consequences. But not all wall crawlers have such good intentions. In the early hours of January 8th, 2022,
I ain't gonna lie. I'd rather break in the window. Nah. I don't want my window to get broke. But I wouldn't want to get stuck in no chimney. That's embarrassing. That's overly crazy. Y'all let me know what y'all would do in the comments. Me personally though, I might just have to pay that fine for the window. I'm gonna have to break into my own window, get in the crib. I lost my keys. I'm not gonna get stuck in the chimney. All that stuff could have got his lungs. He could have died from that. No, sir.
one household in Silver Spring, Maryland, was woken by a mysterious loud rustling that seemed to be coming from inside the house. After calling the police, officers arrived at around 3:30 a.m., but found nothing suspicious and left the premises. All was quiet for the next hour, but at 4:30 a.m., loud moans began erupting from the walls of the home.
Your wife is getting crushed.
Something was alive in there. And when police returned, the moans were pinpointed
both of them
to
heard
the
it.
wall
Okay.
above the fireplace. Peering into the chimney, investigators were shocked to discover there was a person wedged inside. The extraction process took 24 firefighters almost 2 hours to painstakingly remove bricks to reveal the hidden interloper, who turned out to have gotten stuck while trying to break into the property.
That's what he get. Look at him. Cause why you trying to go down like Santa Claus? Buddy trying to be like Santa Claus, and you going down with a sack too. That's overly crazy. That's what he get. They should have left him in there too. They should have.
With his plan utterly up in smoke, all that was left for the police to read him his rights. Finding Fritz. On February 2nd, 1965, 21-year-old Suzanne Pica stood in front of an archery booth at a sports convention in utter disbelief at the sight before her. In front of her, taking aim at a target, was a man that looked exactly like her uncle Larry Bader. But this was impossible. Her uncle had been dead for 7 years. This bizarre saga had begun on May 15th, 1957. When 30-year-old Larry Bader rented a 14-foot motorboat and set out on Lake Erie, around 70 miles from where he lived in Akron, Ohio. The next morning, the boat washed up on the shore of Perkins Beach in Lakewood. There was no sign that the boat had suffered any major damage. The life jackets were still on board, the gas can was empty, but Larry was nowhere to be found. Larry had reportedly ignored warnings of a storm, and the Coast Guard claimed it would have been impossible for someone to survive the violent currents without the aid of a life jacket. So things weren't looking good. After 2 months of searching, investigators gave up hope, and in 1960, Larry Bader was declared legally deceased. Fast forward to the sports convention in 1965. Suzanne confronted the man she believed was her uncle. Like Larry, he was also a keen archer, but he vehemently denied any connection, claiming he had never heard of any Larry Bader. He said his name was John Fritz Johnson, a television broadcaster for the KETV network in Omaha, Nebraska, which was more than 800 miles from cookware salesman Larry's home in Akron. Still, Suzanne wouldn't let it go and demanded a fingerprint analysis. Bewildered by the request, John figured he had nothing to hide, so went along to prove this supposed niece of his was crazy. But in a plot twist even stranger than fiction, Fritz's fingerprints were an exact match of those found in Larry Bader's military records. By all measures, it seemed it really was Suzanne's long-lost uncle back from the dead. When he was found, bearing his apparent new identity, Larry was 37 years old and had been gone for 7 years, but claimed to have absolutely no memory of his former life. In fact, Larry seemed to have somehow acquired fabricated memories of growing up as Fritz Johnson.
Okay, so what I'm thinking, he might have fell off the boat. He fell off his boat, right? He might have bumped his head on a rock or something. So he bumped off the boat, hit his head on a rock, washed ashore somewhere else, like somewhere totally different. Because they saying the boat was found, life jacket, everything. He might have been hitting the bump, just driving the boat. Boom. And he gone. He flying off. He washed ashore somewhere else. Hit his head, memories, gone. Concussion. Somebody must have found him, helped him out a little bit. I guess they might have told him about something, or he just forgot about core memories by his people. I don't know. They might have tried to make him think something. Or that might genuinely be what happened, maybe.
Spanned back more than 30 years, including details about being brought up in an orphanage. He did not recognize his wife, Mary Lou, nor his children, and he'd actually gotten married to another woman during his new life as Fritz. What's more, Larry had unknowingly landed himself in a web of legal problems, including his doubly married status and the life insurance money that had been paid to his quote-unquote widow. Larry was faced with a lot of questions he was never able to answer, as another shocking twist was just around the corner. Just a year after his true identity had been revealed, Larry suddenly died on September 16, 1966. The leading theory is that Larry's memory loss was brought on by a tumor he'd had removed from behind his eye in 1961, which ultimately resurfaced, killing him. However, some theorize he may have faked the memory loss in a bid to run away and start a new life. May 21st, 2011, she could never have guessed their origin. Looking out of her window, Christine beheld two seemingly disembodied legs thrashing around wildly in the spotlight of the street lamps.
All right, I'm going back to bed.
Lining Hale Aloha Way in Ceres, California.
I'm just gonna go right back to sleep.
When police officers arrived on the scene, they found that the wiggling legs were attached to a very drunk individual who was lodged headfirst into a storm drain.
How do you get so drunk that you even get into that predicament?
This was 21-year-old Jared Medeiros, who'd been lodged there for 40 minutes before Christine heard his cries for help. Jared had been trying to reach his phone after accidentally dropping it, and became stuck in his drunken stupor. But he's not the only one who's found themselves stuck in an unlikely scenario of drainage and filth.
Why I be throw doo-doo from head to toe all over me from jumping into sewage? Sewage? You got that one, buddy. You got that one. I don't want none of it at all.
Norwegian Fire Department received a call out to rescue someone stuck in a public bathroom in August 2016. However, upon entry, it looked as though there was no one there, until firefighters noticed a pair of hands gripping the toilet bowl and cries
Don't never let me go in the bathroom and see two hands coming up. He not imagine they just not screaming. And you just see two hands like there. They just sitting there like this. Just staring at you. Your pants already down. Already down. You going to sit down. They just sitting there like this. What you doing? Man, I'm gonna finish taking the poop.
Of someone stuck inside the toilet itself. This bathroom accident came about when the trapped man was fishing around in the toilet in an attempt to retrieve another dropped phone. Fortunately, or unfortunately for him, this particular toilet wasn't connected to a sewer and was little more than an open hole on top of a tank that's cleared out only once a year.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that? What's that, brother?
I don't even know what I'm looking for. That's nasty.
Here. Needless to say, it was pretty unpleasant down there. The man was rescued after spending an hour wading knee-deep in poop, the smell of which also left him covered in his own vomit. How he managed to fit into the toilet is a question we'll never know the answer to.
No facts. I ain't gonna lie. You couldn't have just slipped in there. If you slipped in there, you gonna get. No, he probably could. But I feel like if you going to dig down, you just going your torso gonna get stuck. He had to wiggle and shimmy his way in the hole.
But squeezing out of this one without the help of emergency services was clearly impossible. Taking the Bates. Dr. Bates wasn't someone you'd expect to just up and leave his life behind.
Whoa.
When he disappeared in 1902, William Horatio Bates was at the height of his career, a rich man living in New York City and a highly regarded physician. Yet one day, he up and vanished. All he left behind was a cryptic note for his wife, claiming he'd been called out of town on business. With no word, Dr. Bates's associates and his wife began to lose hope. Until 6 weeks later, a mysterious letter arrived claiming that a man who fit Dr. Bates's description was living in London. It seemed impossible, but it turned out Dr. Bates was alive and was working as a medical assistant at Charing Cross Hospital, almost 3,500 miles away from where he disappeared.
Dang.
The hospital claimed Bates had arrived to them as a patient and got the job after recovering from an unknown illness. Dr. Bates was described as looking thin with sunken eyes and told doctors that he'd been starving for weeks prior to his arrival at the hospital. This, of course, seemed odd considering Dr. Bates had a hefty bank account in the US that could have afforded him quite the life of luxury in London, rather than living in a state of destitute starvation. As soon as she heard the news, Dr. Bates's wife made the long journey across the pond to England. Though Mrs. Bates was ecstatic that her husband had been located, sadly, it was hardly the joyous reunion she'd envisioned. In fact, when she finally did see her husband again, he showed absolutely no signs of recognizing her, claiming that she was a stranger to him. You see, when Dr. Bates had physically reappeared, all memory of his previous life had seemingly vanished without a trace. Many claim that Bates suffered a severe bout of dissociative fugue, a type of amnesia in which a person loses important personal memories and attempts to rebuild their life under a newly adopted identity, filling in the blanks as they go. Considering how determined the new Dr. Bates reportedly seemed to be getting away from his stranger of a wife, it's also possible that this disappearing act was just that, an act. In 1993, Richard Hoagland vanished inexplicably, leaving behind his second wife and 2 sons. 2 decades later, it was discovered that Richard had run away to start a new life under an alias, rather than go through another round of divorce proceedings. Could it be that Dr. Bates made a similar selfish judgment call? Dr. Bates never returned to his wife and continued his career as a celebrated eye doctor alone, the skills of which he had conveniently retained in his memory. So, amnesiac, or husband from hell? Now, let me know what you think down in the comments. We're exploring with Josh and his friends. We're exploring the ape caves of Mount St. Helens in Washington.
Nope.
If a cave got a name, don't go to the cave. If it has a name, don't go. Don't go to any cave. You gonna end up big toes hanging out the cave. I'm telling you, your big toes you gonna be wiggling like this outside the cave. You gonna be head first in the hole. Other side, you gonna be sitting there like this. That was wrong. That looked real mean. I ain't mean it, y'all. YouTube, I'm sorry. I ain't mean it.
They'd been trekking through endless narrow caverns
What'd I say? What'd I say?
to see just how far they could go. But little did they realize what they'd be climbing into. While clambering through a narrow passage, the explorers' flashlights suddenly picked up a sight that seemed truly impossible. Concealed within one of the cave's dark tunnels was a little girl. She had no torch and looked terrified in the darkness of the cave tunnels. The girl didn't speak English, but after locating her parents elsewhere in the cave, Josh and company thankfully reunited the family. While the question of why the girl had wandered off in the pitch darkness remained unanswered, all Josh could do was be grateful he'd managed to stumble across her in one of hundreds of caverns dotted around the 2.4-mile expanse of the Ape Caves.
Ain't there an age limit on going cave diving? There should be an age limit on that. Wait, that sounds slow. No, that's right. Cause why are we in the cave with the little kid? And it's a little kid. Little kid gonna wander off. Go on, Rebecca. Go ahead, go check out that hole over there. Climbs right on in. She gone. Next second you look back. Rebecca? Rebecca, where are you?
Had he and his team not found her, she may well have joined the ranks of the world's many lost souls who are never found. Toddler teleportation. The mystery of Anna Thorpe, aka the teleporting toddler, began on May 4th, 1950. Anna had been playing in her home's yard in Dunbar, Pennsylvania at around 11:30 a.m. But when her
Teleporting
mother
toddler?
heard the little girl let out a piercing scream, she ran outside only to discover that her 2-year-old girl had disappeared. By day 2 of her disappearance, there were nearly 400 people out searching, and when news of her discovery was announced, the reaction was a mix of relief and confusion. Anna was found sitting in a field, which in itself doesn't seem all that strange, but it was the route to her location that was the real mystery. The only way that little Anna could have possibly got herself to the spot she was found would have involved the 2-year-old traversing 2 whole miles and through several barbed wire fences. Police were baffled by this multiple fence dilemma, and it seemed that the only logical explanation was that she had been deliberately placed there. Despite police stating they had no reason to believe that there was anything suspicious about Anna's reappearance, it's very possible that she was kidnapped and abandoned later. This would explain the scream her mother heard, and considering Anna appeared frightened by her approaching rescuers, it's sadly possible that she may have been mistreated by the strangers who theoretically took her. However, considering she was found safe and sound without injury, questions about how she ended up in such an impossible location were never investigated further. Anna isn't the only tot to turn up in a wholly impossible place. At just 2 years
Time out.
Wait a minute.
Other kid. That's really sad. That's really sad. That little girl did not have to do that. I mean, go through that. That's crazy. But how? How could she deliberately be placed there? There was mad gates in between that. And a log. And some woods. And some trees. Okay.
January 22nd, 1987, an abandoned burnt car appeared alongside a road not too far from Sydney, Australia. The car belonged to Gabriel Naj, a man who'd gone missing the previous
Why he put them? Why he put his son in them shorts? Everybody different, but why he put them? I mean, it is an old picture. It's an old picture, but they used to wear them shorts. They used to. They used to wear them shorts. Hold on, is my shorts that short? My shorts ain't that short.
His way home
Okay,
for
hold on.
lunch. More than 20 years after Gabriel's disappearance, a final inquest launched that would declare the father of two legally dead. However, 2 weeks before the scheduled inquest, Senior Constable Georgia Robinson made a last-ditch effort to find something. And find something she most certainly did. Studying medical records, Georgia uncovered Medicare data belonging to a man living in Mackay, Queensland, called Ron Saunders. Scanning the documents, Georgia was shocked to discover that Ron also went by another name, Gabriel Naj. More than 1,000 miles from where he'd disappeared.
I ain't gonna lie. Dang, everybody want to leave their families and forget about their wife. Everybody trying to forget about their wife. Cause God, dog, they must not be doing something right. First buddy he done went across the seas, went to England, to the UK. He done became a whole uh doctrician.
What?
I'm gonna use big words. I don't care if I don't know how to say it right. But he done went across the sea, became a doctrician. And then the next dude, what he did? What was it? Ooh.
Gabriel
They just
Naj
want to get
was
away from their
found
wife.
after 23 years. And in that time, he'd become a completely different man. Gabriel claimed to have no memory of the life with his family in Sydney and had spent the last 2 decades in a state of dazed confusion, hazily recalling intermittent visions of sleeping rough and camping on beaches. Eventually, Gabriel, who'd adopted the street name Ron, had been found by Pastor Barry Hayhoe, who gave him a job as his church's
Hey-ho.
caretaker. When Gabriel was rediscovered after Constable Robbins' investigation, a deep scar on the back of his head had police theorizing that the injury was responsible for Gabriel's apparent amnesia. Could a vehicular hit and run be responsible for Gabriel's memory loss, hinted at by his burnt-out car, or something else? For now, the question remains unanswered. Cliffside Calamity.
Well, let me zoom in. My fault,
You're
y'all.
probably familiar with the phrase between a rock and a hard place, but for our next impossible appearance, that phrase took on a very literal.
Some people just don't need to walk. They don't need to go nowhere. Keep them in the house. How do you possibly?
You stupid.
They're not.
How do you even do this? How do you do this? How?
Crevice in the middle of a steep cliff face. But the question was, how did he get there? Babu had been climbing Cherid Hill in Malampuzha, southern India. But even when his friends abandoned efforts to reach the difficult summit, Daredevil Babu soldiered on. Nearing the top, Babu suddenly lost his grip and began slipping down the rocky cliffside. But miraculously, the 23-year-old's fall was broken by a dip in the steep rock face. His life was saved, but he had no way of climbing down. After numerous failed attempts to reach him, Babu was eventually rescued 48 hours into his stay on the rock. Happy to have his feet back on solid ground, I'd imagine Babu may think twice before showing off to his buddies again. Wych Elm Bella. It was April 18, 1943, in wartime Britain. when 4 teenagers made their way into the woodlands of Hagley Hall Estate in Worcestershire, about 12 miles from the city of Birmingham. After traipsing through twigs for a while, one of the boys, Bob Farmer, noticed a great big wych elm further into the thicket. With hopes of finding free birds' eggs, Bob set about scaling the sinister tree and quickly noticed something white and round peeking through the wych elm's hollow trunk.
Are you stupid?
And that's when I suddenly realized I didn't even mean to climb up here for real. Let me just and go right back home.
Thinking he'd hit the jackpot, Bob carefully reached in to retrieve his prize. But instead of the bird's egg he'd been expecting, Bob pulled out a human skull.
And that's what you get.
After their unnerving find in Hagley Wood was later revealed to the group's parents and the police, investigators searched the tree and made even more shocking discoveries. Inside the tree was an almost complete human skeleton, along with a shoe, gold wedding ring, and fragments of clothing. Forensic tests revealed that the remains were that of a female, aged around 35, who had been inside the tree since at least October 1941. But with no leads as to who she could be, the trail went cold. 8 months later, in December, mysterious graffiti appeared on a wall in Upper Dean Street, Birmingham, that read, "Who put Bella down the wych elm, Hagley Wood?" Police quickly began looking into missing persons cases, scouring each one for any mention of a missing woman called Bella, with little success. Some today point to the bizarre location that Bella's body was placed in as evidence of being connected to a witchcraft ritual of some kind, or some other twisted occult motivation. While modern DNA testing could in theory finally shed some light upon the slaying, Bella's remains mysteriously disappeared soon after her autopsy. But if they ever resurface, we may finally get an answer as to who Bella really was and how exactly she ended up in the wych elm in Hagley Wood. Greased Frightenin'. It was just past 9:30 a.m. on the morning of December 13th, 2018, when eerie moans were heard coming from within a Chinese eatery in San Lorenzo, California.
I'm gonna hit one of these. I'm gonna look just how he looking.
Help! Help!
I don't hear anything.
Help me! Help!
That's a nice wall over there. I'm just gonna go that way.
Investigators began following the echoing cries for help. Tracing the voice to the restaurant's roof, they found that the wails were getting louder as they approached a sheet metal grease duct. Opening the vent, all the rescuers could see were an outstretched pair of arms completely slathered in blackened oil. Grease ducts are used to filter out vapors that come from commercial cooking equipment, including woks and deep fryers. So not only did the guy inside this one go through every claustrophobic's worst nightmare, but he also spent the entire time laden with old, disgusting, stinking cooking grease. Turns out that aside from the grease, this guy was quite the slime ball himself and was actually trying to break into the restaurant when he got stuck in the duct.
Gotcha, bitch!
The would-be burglar spent 2 whole days submerged in oil-slicked darkness before being rescued from the recently closed restaurant. I don't know what's worse, spending 2 days in oil or being rescued and cuffed just minutes later. Which of these...
Alright, y'all. So I'm not gonna lie to you. That's gonna be the end of today's video. Make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. Comment down below if y'all have any suggestions that y'all want me to like react to, because I want to start getting into the reaction videos. So make sure y'all comment down below on like what type of videos or anything y'all want me to react to. Let me know. Other than that, thank you for watching. I'm gonna see y'all in the next video. Safety, y'all.